class, I thought I would do a very quick tutorial on APA formatting, since some of you may be a little bit unfamiliar with it or might just need a little bit of a refresher. So what is APA formatting? This is really the American Psychological Association's guidelines for how we should write papers and what are the conventions that we need to use. So there are a lot of rules to APA formatting, and we're not going to cover all of those, especially not in this class. But it covers everything from how you should actually organize your content, what type of headers to use, as well as different parts of writing style, like preferences on what words that we use, as well as how we write our statistics, for example. And another big part about this is citing our references, and that's really what I'm going to be talking about. So all these standards really help us to be on the same page, and especially when we're talking about something like writing and our citations. Citations really help me as the reader of your paper, as well as other people, find out where you get your information from. And another big thing is that citations are really important for us to avoid plagiarism. We know that academic integrity is very important to our universities, and we want to make sure that we give credit to somebody else for the work that they did, right? Just like you would want somebody to give you credit for the work that you're doing as well. So I don't abide by everything in the APA formatting guidelines, and the reason for that is that it's a lot of rules and regulations, and sometimes that's really the last thing that we really care about. And what we really need to be focusing on is the content of your work, and that you're giving credit where credit is due. So what I really care about is that you have in-text citations for your APA formatting, and that you have a reference page in APA formatting. If you make small mistakes, it's not a big deal. So please don't worry about that part, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is about how do you actually use APA formatting. The other thing, just to make it easy for everybody, 12-point font, 1-inch margins, double-spaced is what you'll write your paper in. You absolutely do not need a title page or an abstract. Those things are really useful when we're talking about, big papers, but in my class, this is again specific to my class, you don't need either of those. So I've been throwing around this term citations. What do I really mean? A citation is just giving credit to somebody else for the work that they did. So this is a really handy little guide that you can follow. When do you actually need to cite or give credit to somebody, and preferably right after you say that statement? Well, did you actually think of it? And if that is a yes, you do not need to cite it. So if I thought about something, a novel way of thinking about something, I'm making my own argument about something, I don't need to cite it, right? It's my own ideas. However, that's not all the cases, right? Is this actually something that's common knowledge? For example, if I'm thinking about infant development, it is common knowledge that typically infants say their first words about the first year of life. So since it's relatively common knowledge, if it is, yes, I do not need to cite it. If it is not common knowledge, I do need to cite it. So where did I get that information from? And all you have to do is tell me, where did you get it from? How do you do that? Well, we have these rules of thumb, and in APA, if we think about the who, what, where, when, why, the two things that the APA cares the most about is who it is and when did they say it. So if the article that I'm referencing is from Smith and they wrote that article in 2000, right, in the body of my paper, so actually right after the statement that I am using to summarize Smith's statement, I would put in Smith 2000. And then, so that's the in-text in the body of my paper. And then at the very bottom of my paper, I have my reference pages. And in that reference page, you start off the same thing, Smith 2000, and then what's the title, and where did they publish it? So what's the journal that they published in? So what might this look like in an actual text or body of your paper? So this is an example of a direct quote. This is freedom to withdraw means, and here's the direct quote that I got from this book from Hawk, and then I put the page number afterwards. So I have my author, I have my year written, and I have my page number, and I use quotation marks because this is a direct quote. So when I use a direct quote, that's one way to do it. As a note, oftentimes we don't need to use direct quotes. See if you can actually state this in another way, or summarize it in your own words. If I were to do that, I would still need to be able to give credit where credit is due. So I read from this Hawk book, and I did a summary and said the Stanford prison study was stopped early because the study was chaotic and individuals' rights were being violated, right? So it's not my original idea, so I cited it. I am still using the author and the year written. I don't have a page number. I don't have direct quotes because now it's written in my own words. So you may be asking yourself, well, what happens when there's a couple of different situations? So oftentimes when we are writing our citations, we might not know who the author actually is. So in this case, the who would be the organization that wrote it. So that might be something like oftentimes places like the Mayo Clinic or the Centers for Disease Control will not have a specific author there. In that case, the Mayo Clinic is the author, or the Centers for Disease Control is the author. So instead of having the who be the author's last name, instead you would now have it be the organization. Another thing that can happen is that if you're looking at a website, sometimes there is a lack of information about the date. So what you should do is look and see the last date that this website was actually updated. So for example, if you click into here in this Mayo Clinic, it's at the very bottom of the page, but it says last updated, and it gives a date in 2018. If you can't find that at all, it would be ND for the date, meaning no date. So Smith, I created a fake one here, but Smith, no date, whatever the title is, and then the website that you got it from, or the journal, for example. Another thing that you should know is that a lot of the times in psychology, we want things to be pretty succinct and concise. So basically, you never need to include the full title of the article. There's no reason for it. It's superfluous and it's not necessary. So if I could have something like one study entitled blah, 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 but it doesn't get my point across. What is my point? Well, the point is that one study validated a questionnaire, right? One study validated a questionnaire for anxiety and depression. That's what I care about, is that there's a validation for that anxiety and depression questionnaire. Now, if I really care, I can go and find this cronky article at the very end of my reference page. So this is why we don't really care about titles. You don't need it in your papers, and it looks clunky and it gets away from your main point that you're trying to make, right? Everything's an argument, and when you use too much of your title, it doesn't really help.